What's up guys, welcome back to another video, and today we're doing a tour of my home studio for 2019. Alright guys, so this is going to be a little bit more of a POV kind of style video, but essentially this is my studio, this is where I work out of, and I'll give you guys a bit of a 360 panoramic view so you guys can get a feel for it. But the first two things that I want you guys to notice is that, one, it's not that big of a room. It's really just a spare bedroom in my house that I turned into, you know, where I work, the area that I work, and I definitely make it work. And then two, this studio over time has transitioned into like this hybrid work area where not only do I do music, obviously, but also where I film my YouTube videos. So there's a lot more video gear here, and that's the biggest difference from the first video or studio tour that I did, I think almost 2 years ago, or 2 years ago. But anyway, we'll work our way around the room to the more interesting things, and we'll start over this way. So this obviously is the door, nothing too interesting, but what's over it is an acoustic blanket. Now I've fallen in love with these things recently, for several reasons. Now this one here is from a company called Vocal Booth To Go, and it's called a Producer's Choice Blanket. The reason I love it is because, one, they're really versatile. Now if you take a look at the top, you can get them with these grommets and essentially use them to hang wherever you want. In this particular scenario, I used some door hooks from Amazon to kind of hang on the door, and that goes all the way down, so it does the job. Two, I think they do a hell of a lot better job than acoustic foam pads. And then three, and most importantly, I also think they're way better priced. So these things are absolutely fantastic, and I love them. Now moving over this way, we have what is probably my favorite piece out of this entire studio. This is the Holsti Manifesto. Now I think this started out as being the mission statement for the company Holsti, and eventually it got so popular that they started selling it to the masses. Now you guys can Google the whole thing if you want to read it, but I'll read you guys a little bit. It says, "This is your life. Do what you love and do it often. If you don't like something, change it. If you don't like your job, quit. If you don't have enough time, stop watching TV," so on and so forth. This really, for me, is just a daily reminder to be relentless in the pursuit of what makes you happy. So that sits up there. Now over at the bottom, we have my shelf, which really transitioned from the last studio. Nothing has changed, it's really just the same thing. But over at the top, we have a bunch of little figurines. Picture me and my girlfriend, the guy from Fallout, Darth Vader bobblehead, Spider-Man bobblehead, salt lamp. This right here is actually the lens that I use to shoot all my YouTube videos. This is a 25mm micro 4/3 from, it's a 1.4, oh no, 1.7, sorry, from Panasonic, because the camera that I use is a Lumix G85. Now I don't love this camera, I actually kind of hate it, but it was my first camera, so we make it work. More little figurines here, nothing crazy. Now, if we move down a little bit, we see my actual books. Now, I love to read, especially in the morning, right after breakfast. But a lot of the things that I read tend to be self-improvement and marketing. I think I've mentioned it once or twice, but I actually went to school for marketing, and it's just another thing that I really love. I think if you are an entrepreneur, and if you're a producer, then you're definitely an entrepreneur. But I think it's a necessary thing. I think it's a fascinating thing. Especially because a lot of people don't understand it completely. But right now, the book that I just finished reading, actually this morning, is the 22 Immutable Laws of Marketing, and I definitely recommend it. But anyway, moving down, just more knickknacks. At the very bottom, we have those same records from the first studio tour, which I still have not listened to because I don't have a record player. They're kind of more just for the decor, but you know, they add to the vibe. Now, moving on over, we have my closet. Now, you can't see it because it is being hidden by another acoustic blanket. The difference with this one is that I decided to mount it to some curtain rod, as you can see there, and I used some S-hooks to kind of attach it to it through the grommets. And the reason I did that is because I want to be able to slide it, just like this. And then this is my closet here. It's probably a little hard to see, but really in here it's just storage. We have some microphone boxes, the box of my Apollo, some, you know, guitar cases, mic stands. Nothing interesting. This is really just storage. But I didn't want to leave it like this because one, it's just ugly, but two, this is a perfect surface to have sound reflect off of, which, you know, can mess up your recordings and your mixing. So we put a little acoustic blanket over it. Now moving on over to the other wall, I'll back up a little bit so you guys can get a good look for it, or of it. But essentially, it's just really artwork. If you look at the top, we have a Darth Vader in a suit printed over dictionary paper. I don't know if this was done by hand or not, but I got this one along with the companion over here, the Stormtrooper in a suit, also printed over dictionary paper. I got those from Etsy. I'll try to find the vendor again because she makes some really dope stuff. But anyway, they'll sit there. Now in the middle of those two, we have a custom piece that I got made from an artist that I worked with here in the studio. Now, besides being a really good singer, she was also a really good, I guess, visual artist, you could say. She painted that by hand. So as you guys can see, it says work harder, and it's in that digital clock font. In retrospect, I wish I would have just left it at work, because you really want to be working smarter, not harder, but in any case. Moving down, we have the acoustic foam pads that I was talking about. Now, these are from Auralex, and I do not recommend them. Not because they don't work, but simply because they're way overpriced. And personally, I think you can find alternatives that do the same job, the same thing, or better at a much lower price. Specifically, these things here, the acoustic blankets. But anyway, I had them in for my last studio, so I was like, why not put them up? I have some there. I have some in this wall, which we'll go over in a minute. And then I have some on the ceiling. Reason being is because as opposed to my last studio, this studio has a hardwood floor. And it's also a perfect square, which is the perfect recipe for terrible mixes. So I put some up there, and all I used was some T-pins. You can get them at like Walmart or wherever for like $1, for like 100 of them. So I used some T-pins to put them up on the ceiling. And then I also combined that with a rug, and we'll go over that in a minute. But that kind of, you know, deadened the sound a little bit. Moving down, we have my drafting stool. I talked about this, I believe, in the Christmas guide for the studio. I love this thing because it has no arms, and I can very, you know, comfortably record a guitar on it as opposed to my regular chair. But it's also used for if people come over to the studio, they have a little place to sit. Then we have the studio blanket, courtesy of my mom. Shout out to Mom. And then, let's see, moving over this way, we have a very lonely guitar rack. Now, right here sitting on it is my baby, the Black Widow. This is my all-black Gibson Les Paul Studio, and I've had this for nearly 7 years, 8 years. I bought it from a friend a while back, and basically, if you guys hear any guitar on any of my production, it probably comes from this bad girl right here. I used to have my acoustic out here, but the problem is that since I also record in this room, and the acoustic guitar has a hollow body, it produced like this weird echo, like artifact, and that would get blended into my recording, so I had to stash her in the closet. This came over from my last studio. This is just a little Spider-Man piece that I got from a friend. So it sits on that wall. Over at the bottom, we have a little practice amp, a little Marshall 10-watt practice amp that I've literally had for, I don't even know. I've had it since I was in 10th grade. And that's when I started to learn how to play guitar. But I really don't even use it nowadays. It's kind of just there. I plug it in every once in a while, but, you know, it's a nice little memory. Now moving over this way, we have some more Decor. Now, fun fact, the guitar was actually the second instrument that I learned how to play. The trumpet was my first. I was actually in the high school marching band, so there's that. Moving down a little bit, we have a table just full of stuff. And another fun fact, that right there, here, that was my first microphone ever. They're two condenser mics. It's an MXL 990 and 991, and the 91 is like a pencil mic. Now, the funny part about that story is that I bought them when I was like in 9th or 10th grade. I had a whole bunch of birthday money left over, and for whatever reason, I decided to buy the microphone, even though I had no cables and no audio interface and no one to record. So clearly the dream has been alive for a long time. Now if we back up a little bit, we get to the main wall. Now that there is my desk, and as you guys can see, I have 2 more acoustic blankets running across the back wall. Now they're hanging again in the same fashion with some S-hooks on a curtain rod, just a thicker one from IKEA. In front of that we have some, I think they're called twinkle lights or fairy lights, but essentially they're just hardwired to some switches down here. And then in front of that we have the studio sign. Now this was made custom made by the same artist who made the Work Harder piece, and the story behind this is that, as I'm sure you guys know, I have the Philips Hue colored bulbs. So in my last studio I made a scene called Fire Up the Space Station that would turn my lights like purple and blue, and that was my party trick. When people used to come, when people would come over, specifically artists, you know, I would show that to them, and eventually they started calling the studio the Space Station, and it kind of stuck, so I got a sign made for it. Let's see what else. We have some bass traps on 2 there, 2 there. Again, they're from Oralex, but you have to buy them separately, so again, they're just extremely overpriced. We have some lamps from IKEA, 1 there and 1 there. They're like 10 bucks a pop, nothing crazy, but they do house those Philips Hue bulbs. So we have 1 there, 1 there, 1 at the top, and then a strip behind my desk. And like I said, they turn all kinds of different colors. Now moving a little bit closer, the desk itself is from IKEA, and this was called the Galant when I bought it. I think it's discontinued, but the newer version is called the Beckant, I believe. They even have a version that you can like raise it up and down, so that's pretty cool. But what I did, because it only came with this tabletop and the legs, I bought an additional shelf, a shelf unit, and then I bought these little legs, so I drilled them in, and I created this second like tier thing to place my monitor. So if we back up a little bit, I'll show you my computer first. This is a 2014 MacBook Pro. At the time it was spec'd out. You know, there's faster computers now, but it works. I want to get a new one, and the only reason for that is because since I'm doing a lot more video work now, I could definitely use a better graphics card. If I was just doing music, it'll work fine, but you know, the renders take forever, especially if I'm doing like motion graphics and stuff like that. But other than that, it's a great computer. Now this here is my main microphone that I use for all my YouTube videos. This is the Rode NT1A, has a little pop windscreen thing from Guitar Center. It's on the Rode shock mount, and then I have this Rode like boom arm. Now for the OGs, the people who have been watching from the very, very beginning, you guys know I used to have like a mic stand right there, and I would put my microphone there, and then, you know, that's how I would record my audio, but that would get in the way a lot, especially when making beat making videos. So I got this thing, and it's super, super handy. I can pull it in whenever I need to use it, and whenever I don't, just put it away, and it just clamps onto your desk. So it's really, really handy. My favorite headphones ever, see if I can get these out. They are the Audio-Technica ATH, they're getting stuck, ATH M50Xs. So essentially, let me see, because there we go. Aha. These things are great. They're super flat, and they're great for mixing, for monitoring. They're great for literally everything. Consumer listening, and they're super, super comfortable. So they kind of sit in this little stand, headphone stand right there. My favorite audio interface ever. This is the Apollo Twin Quad MK2. I used to have the MK1 Duo, but I found a really good deal on the Quad, so I jumped on it. I think I'm gonna make a dedicated video on this interface and why I love it so much, and maybe even one on audio interfaces in general, because I feel like there's a misconception over when you need one and for what purposes. So I might do that. But backing up a little bit more, let's see, my monitor, the same one that I used when I was in college. This is the same monitor that I brought freshman year into my dorm. And again, if I was just doing music, it'd be great, but because I'm doing video, I want a new one because the color reproduction is terrible. Maybe even an ultra wide, because if I can fit the whole editing timeline, that'd be great. My MIDI keyboard of choice, this is the OG Akai MPK61. I haven't changed it. They've come up with multiple versions after that, but this works. And I'm a big fan of, you know, 61 or 61, not the 80 or something. That's way too many keys. But this is perfect because I love to play in my parts. And I'm sure if you guys watch, you guys know that I don't really like to click in any of my, my beats or whatnot. So I use this. Now I don't use really any of this besides the transport controls. My machine, I use this for drums. Now this again is the OG version from like 2012, and really it was a very stupid purchase at the time. Reason being is because I really just bought it for the pads. Now I don't like to program drums on keys, and I really hate these MPC pads. I think they're super dry and dull. Any MPC fans out there, don't kill me, but I just hate these things. So I bought this. And I don't even use any of the machine functions because I route this straight into Studio One. But, it works. Peripherals, I have the Apple Magic keyboard, the one with batteries, not even the new one that recharges, the old one. This is the best mouse ever. This is the MX Master 2S. So essentially, check this out. You get 2 buttons, right? The scroll wheel's a button, and you can switch it from clicky scrolling to like fluid scrolling. There's a button here. On the side, we get a side scroll wheel, back forth button, and then there's a button on the thumb. And the best part is that you can customize this per application. So oftentimes I have it configured one way for video editing and then another way for like Studio One and production. So it literally makes my life so much easier. So this is great. Let's see what else. On my shelves here. Oh, my studio monitors. I use the Yamaha HS80Ms. Not the 8s. Those are the newer ones. These are from like, again, a long time ago. 2011, 2012. They're 8-inch monitors. Really, really flat. I love them. The stands that they're on, I think they're the DR Pro is the brand. They're really, really sturdy, but they're not height adjustable. So, there's that. Let's see. My other monitor, I have a mono speaker. This is a really, really crappy mono speaker. I think it's supposed to be like an Oratone clone, but it's from Behringer. It's called the Baritone, and it's really mid-range heavy. So, it sounds really crappy, but if I can get my mixes to sound good on this thing, they sound good anywhere. And check this out. So basically what I do is, let me play a beat. There's this switch on my interface that I can go from main to secondary. So, right? So main ones. And I can do this all day. It's really good to reference mixes. Anyway, that is really, really helpful whenever I'm trying to reference my mixes, making sure that they sound good everywhere. Let's see, what else have I missed? A lot of the stuff up here, my hard drives. I have a 500 gigabyte SSD that I use to record into, to make beats, into. I don't record anything into my computer's disk. I only use that for programs. And then I have another one, which is, I think, 2 terabytes, traditional hard drive that I use for samples. And then I have this one here, another 2 terabytes that I use for media, so like anything YouTube, that goes in there. And then all these 3 back up into my 5 terabyte Seagate, and that happens every Monday automatically through a software called Carbon Copy Cloner. I think I've reviewed that as well. So it just makes life really, really handy. So you guys usually sit there. This is a little monitor that I use to see myself when I'm recording my videos. And then check this out. I get a lot of messages about this. This is how I record my beat making videos. So this thing here is relatively new, but essentially the whole method has been the same. I have something to record my beat pad. I have something to record the keyboard. And more specifically, what this thing is, it's called a C-stand, and it has really, really wide, just really heavy legs, so it can hold a lot of weight. It's predominantly used for photography and videography, but I use it as an overhead rig because it comes with these little things called grip heads, and you can put whatever you want on grip heads. So what I do is I have a grip head, a spigot that goes onto the grip head, a ball head, and then I use a phone mount. Now, I actually use my iPhone 7, to record the beat pad. Then I have a GoPro and that records my keyboard. So then what happens is I have iPhone recording, I have the GoPro recording, I have my main camera recording, and then I have a software called ScreenFlow. And those things all record at the same time. And then I just sync it up in post, make the edits how I want to, and then you guys get a beat making video. So that's how I do it. What else am I missing on this desk? I think that's it for this part. At the bottom we have my rack. Now it's really, really, really lonely. I eventually maybe want to do a hybrid studio, but I mean for now, it is what it is. At the top we have a power conditioner, and basically think of that as like a studio grade surge protector in case there's like a thunderstorm or something like that. It prevents outages and it prevents your equipment from being fried. It also acts as like a filter. So, especially when you're working in a home studio, there's a lot of appliances plugged into the wall creating electrical noise. This acts as a filter so that doesn't transition or bleed into your songs. The next thing down are some switches that are really used for lights. They're not used for like music, but I got really, really tired of having to like turn on everything by hand. So I hardwired my three speakers, and the lights to this. So if I turn this off, speaker 1 goes off, right speaker goes off, mono speaker goes off, and then lights go off. So totally unnecessary, but really, really cool. Makes it actually feel like a space station. And then the only piece that I have left at the bottom is an Avid 11 rack. This right here is essentially like it's a guitar tone emulator. You plug your guitar in and it gives you a whole bunch of different tones to mess around with. You could even pick like the microphone you want it to come out of, the cabinet, I mean just all kinds of crazy things. And the best part is that it's also an audio interface. So if you're someone who maybe just does like guitar or like live band, live instrumentation, this might be the thing for you. And then just a pedal, a little sustain pedal from Guitar Center. And that's really my desk. On this last wall, we have a couple more pieces. This is the last custom piece that I have from that same artist who made the other two, which says Positive Vibes, and like this galactic theme. We have a little cable holder. We have, the Avengers in comic book form, because I'm a big nerd. And then more acoustic foam pads. This is a light that I use for my videos. Just kind of shines there. We have my idea board. Anything that, comes to mind in terms of audio and video, that's usually where it goes. And let's see, last but not least, my chair. This is from Serta. I think they also make mattresses. But I used to use a little $50 chair from not from Home Depot, but from like Staples. But it got to a point where my lower back started to really hurt because I was sitting on that thing for like 12 hours at a time every day. So this is bad. This thing was not cheap, but it was definitely worth the investment because my problem went away and it's super, super comfortable. At the bottom we got a rug because like I mentioned, now I have hardwood floors. So this is just to, provide some extra absorption, and then a little mat thing so I can roll around. But that's it, guys. Hopefully you guys enjoyed it. This is my studio, and like I said, it's not that big of a room. A lot of us who are working from home studios, we have to make do with what we have, and this is what I got. So this is what I used to work. Hopefully you guys enjoyed. But that's it for me, guys. Thank you so much for watching. Now, everything that I talked about today will be linked down in the description box below. But as always, like this video if you liked it, subscribe if you're not already, but I will see you guys on the next one.